that they are visible at all times to each other and to us in the Booth Road room. If members attending virtually have any technical problems, they should email the Westminster Hall clerk's email address. Members attending physically should clean their spaces before they use them and as they leave the room, and take that material with them or put it in the bin. Order Ferrial Clerk to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I beg to move. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and also like to thank the Minister today for her time. They say to be a true friend and ally, it is to point out when your friends fall short and to always to be honest in your views. By this marker, it would be a dereliction of our friendship if we did not address our growing concerns of how some of our international partners are acting. We would be setting dangerous precedent, and that says formal allegiance trumps values amongst our neighbours and friends. Turkey is such a friend. Turkey is a NATO member and ally of Britain and a member of the Council of Europe since 1950. Turkey is also a trade partner to Britain. But none of this can prevent us from speaking out when it is right and timely to do so. Turkey's status as a friend makes it even more important that we speak out, and the actions of this Turkish government should worry us all. The Turkish government's attack on free speech and complete and utter intolerance for pluralism in politics and in media and in nearly every walk of life should set off alarm bells for us all. Yes.
Which is absolutely right. Speaking about human rights abuses, I just want to bring to the attention, it's not just politicians it's happened to, it's also happened to religious minorities, as evidenced in the expulsion of 140 Protestant families from their homes, from their jobs, again due to Islamic radical policy of the Turkish government. Does anyone really feel it's time that all those who are abused by human rights in Turkey, that there's accountability for Turkey and for government?
Thank the honourable member for that intervention, and I absolutely agree. There is real intolerance building in the country for minorities, religious minority groups as well, which I will touch on in my speech as well. Many of us here know the Kurdish question in Turkey is not new. The treatment of more than 20 million of its citizens who are Kurdish has been a major cause for concern in the West for many years. In 2015, the general election in Turkey saw HDP, a pro-Kurdish party led by a charismatic leader, able to form a coalition of progressives, run in the elections. They were successful in breaking through the 10% threshold needed to win seats in the Turkish parliament, and in doing so denied the incumbent government a majority. The response of the government was to launch an all-out attack against HDP and the democratically elected opposition politicians who represent it. The litany of abuses stretches far and wide. Selahattin Demirtas, one of Turkey's most prominent politicians and the co-leader of HDP, was arrested and has been imprisoned for over 4.5 years. One of the first charges brought against Mr Demirtas was that was attending an anti-ISIS protest. Let that sink in, an anti-ISIS protest. That was one of the charges brought against him. President Erdogan's purge of opposition politicians that began in August 2019 included MPs, mayors and councillors from both the HDP and the CHP party. CHP party is one of the oldest parties in Turkey. And these MPs, mayors and councillors being stripped of immunity and imprisoned. Where these democratically elected officials have been imprisoned, President Erdogan's AKP government have implemented a coup-like replacement of them. The AKP government has imposed ministry-appointed trustees in Kurdish majority eastern and southeastern provinces, as well as secularist and republican areas in the west, such as Izmir. These are actions that undermine democracy, undermine representation, and will undermine the long-term stability of any democratic system. Now, when we look at the devastation this action has done to the plurality of Turkish democracy, we can see 48 of the 65 municipalities won by HDP in 2019 local elections have been taken over by the Ministry of the Interior. A total of 122 democratically elected municipal councillors have been detained since August 2019 by an incumbent government for little more than having the nerve to stand against them in an election and win. The constant harassment of HDB politicians and members is no longer done in disguise, but with boldness and impunity. This shocking number alone should spur action on the part of the UK government. A fundamental tenet of free and democratic system is accepting the right of people to elect their representatives in government. Without this right, then there is no democracy, just the appearance of it, in the hope that countries like ours will continue to turn a blind eye. The UK government already knows all this, as well as knowing that the European Court of Human Rights has ordered the immediate release of Selahattin Demirtas from his extended pre-trial detention. Turkey is a member of EHRC and therefore has an obligation to uphold European conventions on human rights, a convention that UK was pivotal in drafting under the leadership of Winston Churchill. We need to see this very same leadership extended from the UK once more. I want to end my contribution, Madam Chairman, with serious questions to the Minister. What action is the government taking to encourage Turkey to work towards the full protection of fundamental human rights in areas of minority rights, freedom of religious and freedom of expression? Will the government call on Turkey for the immediate release of the democratically elected politicians? How will the government work with our NATO, European and global allies to impress upon President Erdogan that he must adhere to the international treaties to which he has signed? What message does the UK government believe taking no action sends to our other international partners who look towards us for leadership on human rights issues? And will the Minister raise with her Turkish counterparts the unacceptable and brutal attack on the Kurdish populations in Turkey? Turkey is fast becoming a one-party, one religion, one ideology state with no distinction between parliament and judiciary. It has created a system that allowed one man to have almost absolute monopoly of power, where the constitution is changed to ensure that that man can never be removed from office. It is of no benefit to anyone to repeat worn-out platitudes about Turkey's important geopolitical and strategic role. We must stand up for the people of Turkey, our true allies, to help recover a democracy in decline. Thank you.
I will call other members to speak now, mindful of the time, and I wish to call the Minister no later than 4:25. Kate Osborne.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's an honour to serve under your chairmanship, and I also thank my honourable friend, the member for Enfield North, for securing this important debate. And as my honourable friend for Enfield North has said, the increasing authoritarian policies of President Erdogan and his government have been dragging Turkey further into political polarisation, social turmoil and economic instability. The main opposition party, the HDP, which is majority Kurdish, has suffered continuous harassment, arrests and imprisonment, including over 700 arrests on the 15th of February this year. The party's leaders have all received lengthy prison sentences, and elected MPs and local politicians have been arrested and replaced with the government's appointed trustees. This authoritarian regime has had a disproportionate effect on women in the country, and their legal rights being eroded, and women facing abuse and violence, often by uniformed authority, and disappearances by the police are commonplace. Many women politicians and trade union activists have been terrorised for defending basic human rights. NGOs, including women's groups and human rights organisations, have been closed by the authorities in the country. And the LGBT+ community has also come under threat from the authoritarian policies of President Erdogan. And the justice system in the country is systematically used to criminalise peaceful activities such as prides and art exhibitions. There are currently several students and an academic facing prison sentences for the organisation of a Pride March on campus that was banned by the university. Trade unionists are also under constant attack from the current regime in Turkey. Both face administrative and judicial harassment for carrying out legitimate trade union activities. It makes it extremely concerning that on the 29th of December last year, the UK government signed a trade agreement with the government of Turkey that contains no enforceable commitments for Turkey to respect labour rights, following the same approach as Turkey's customs agreement with the EU. This means it will not be possible to use the UK Turkey agreement to stop the government of Turkey abusing the rights of unions and workers and committing widespread human rights abuses, as it has done in an increasingly brutal manner in recent years. The UK government must follow the new President Joe Biden of America, Joe Biden, in taking a much firmer line against Turkey's continued human and workers' rights violations, both within and outside its own borders. And with all this in mind, I would like to ask the Minister here today if she will do all she can to ensure that the UK Government do not become complicit with the Turkish Government in a bid to keep the recent rollover trade deal with Turkey, because if the UK Government fail to hold Turkey to account for its human rights abuses, it will in effect become complicit. Therefore, the UK Government must do all it can to push the Turkish Government to work towards protecting fundamental minority rights in the country and commit to suspending the UK-Turkey trade deal should the Turkish Government implement its threatened ban on the socially progressive HDP party. And finally, Madam Chairman, I would also like to call on the UK Government and the Minister here today to require the Government of Turkey to show respect for core international labour organisation conventions as a precondition for the UK-Turkey agreement being applied. Thank you.
Lloyd Russell Moyle.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Chairperson, Chairwoman, whatever the phrase is. I want to thank my honourable friends who have just spoken, and say this is an area of work that the all-party parliamentary group for Kurds in Turkey and Kurds in Syria have been deliberating on. The connection with Kurds in Syria is important because many of the demonstrations that the Turkish politicians have been accused of attending and then arrested for relate to their fight against ISIS, of course, in Syria. The APPG over the last few weeks and months has been interviewing politicians from Turkey, including municipal leaders and MPs. Our recommendations hopefully will be out at the end of this month. But I wanted to sum up a few quick points that seem to be coming from some of those deliberations. First of all, I'll put this in the phrase I, because the APPG hasn't signed any of these things off, but these are my interpretations of what the APPG has so far heard. We are concerned, I'm concerned, that politicians of opposition parties are routinely accused of bizarre crimes. We heard crimes that they were accused of committing before they were born, in terms of attending political demonstrations. Crimes that they were accused of because their families or relatives had done things. This is against the very principle of justice, that you should be judged for what you do, not what predecessors have done. And, of course, crimes for speaking out for ethnic groups in the Parliament. So protected speech in the Parliament has disappeared. I'm concerned particularly that traditionally in Turkey the system was that trials of MPs, of which there have been trials of the leading party, AKP, as well. I mean, let's not pretend they're all on HDP, but they are vastly overwhelmed on HDP. Something like kind of 90% of their MPs, compared to only 2 AKP MPs who have been tried in the last 10 years. Traditionally, and with the ruling party's MPs, trials were held in the local area. The change recently for trials to be held by the Central Court in Ankara and therefore not able to provide witnesses, to provide local representatives to those court trials, to be able to defend themselves, is a key difficulty of justice. There have been, of course, we know, European Court of Human Rights judgments, and they are continually not complied with. And the removal of MPs, in my view, should be only a very rare circumstance. And the fact that this has happened with 154 MPs have had their immunity removed in Turkey, 54 of them HDP MPs, almost 100 of other parties. And let's remember, the CHP is not some radical, kind of loony left or loony right party. They are the founding party of modern Turkey. And the fact that their MPs are now being targeted does make me feel like you don't speak up when minority MPs are targeted, and you see what happens. Majority MPs from established parties start being attacked. And we have seen many Kurdish MPs, of course, saying they don't demand their own state, but wishing to be able to talk about how Kurdish representation happens. And when the ambassador wrote to me, he said, we don't recognise Kurds in our country, we recognise only Turks. To me, that is a denial of the civil and cultural rights that people have, and is a real problem with representation. I don't want to go on much longer because I want to be able to give the Minister time, but I hope that she will respond to those points, and I hope that she will commit to reading in detail and responding in writing to our report when it is completed and finished. I thank you for your time.
Minister.
Thank you, Ms McVeigh, Chair. I'm very grateful to the Honourable Member for Enfield North for securing this important debate today. Democracy, security and human rights are rightly of serious interest to all members of this House. And in the time that I have, I will try to respond to as many of the points that she has raised and those that others have raised this afternoon too. President Erdogan says that 2021 will be a year of reforms, both for freedoms and for the Turkish economy. We welcome these positive intentions and encourage the Turkish Government to deliver action that will improve the human rights situation, not least through reforms to the judiciary. Turkey has made clear recently that increased prosperity and protecting human rights would be in its own interests. And naturally, we wholeheartedly support this. We therefore welcome the recent publication of Turkey's Human Rights Action Plan and encourage its speedy and comprehensive implementation, and we stand ready to assist in any way we can. With nearly 400 actions, it is thorough. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and I reiterate, it must be implemented in full. As a fellow and long-standing member of the Council of Europe, we hope these measures will bring Turkey more in line with the high standards that the Council expects of its members. We fully expect Turkey to implement each of the European Court of Human Rights judgments against it. As fellow NATO allies and G20 economies, the UK and Turkey should continue to work together closely. Our shared interests encompass trade, security, defence and climate change. We also share an interest in resolving regional issues, such as the continued division of Cyprus, Syria, Nagorno-Karabakh, and also migration. Turkey is strategically important to us as we forge links with a more diverse range of partners in the interests of Britain's security and prosperity. That said, and while the UK enjoys a productive partnership with Turkey on the issues I mentioned, we do have concerns about the human rights situation, and we do raise these with the Turkish authorities. We share the concerns of our US and European partners on issues around media freedom, treatment of human rights defenders, and the LGBTI community and opposition parties. We note that a number of HDP or People's Democratic Party MPs have been arrested for alleged links with the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK. The UK has also proscribed the PKK as a terrorist group, as have many of our international partners.
Will it give way?
Of course.
whilst I don't want to challenge the PKK's prescription, would she recognise that the European Court of Justice has twice now said that the prescription was illegal in the European sense and didn't meet the requirements, and so has the Belgian court, and there is court cases ongoing on this issue. So it is a slightly open question, not what Turkey thinks, but what the international community think.
Minister.
Thank you. I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman for his intervention. As I explained, we've prescribed the PKK as a terrorist group, as have many of our international partners. And if these links are proved to be accurate, we urge the HDP to distance itself entirely from the PKK and its ongoing terrorist activity. But I, like others, am deeply saddened by the news that Turkish soldiers and civilians lost their lives in Gara at the hands of the PKK. Our ambassador offered his condolences to Turkey at the time, and I reiterate them now. However, we have registered our concern at the OSCE and the Council of Europe at the large number of detentions. These include the ongoing and lengthy detention without trial of former HDP co-leader Selahattin Demirtas. We maintain an ongoing dialogue with the HDP to hear their concerns, just as we do to all the main political parties. We're also concerned by Turkey's delayed implementation of the European Court of Human Rights judgments regarding the imprisonment of Demirtas and of Osman Kavala, the human rights activist. As a member of the Council of Europe, Madam Chair, we expect Turkey to implement these court decisions in line with the base values that underpin our cooperation. In accordance with that position, we participated in Council of Europe discussions on both these cases, most recently just last week. We support the rights of LGBTI groups in Turkey. We have encouraged Turkey to respect the rights of the LGBTI community, to allow pride marches to go ahead unchallenged, and to discourage disparaging public statements targeting the LGBTI+ community. The Honourable Lady for Enfield North and other members here today also raised the issue of the replacement of mayors. We also have concerns at the replacement of large numbers of HDP mayors with state-appointed trustees in the southeast of Turkey. The Turkish government took these decisions because it contends that these mayors were allegedly channeling funding and support to the PKK. Again, if that is proven to be the case, we condemn support for terrorism unreservedly. However, Turkey must undertake any legal processes against opposition politicians or legally elected representatives fairly, transparently, and with full respect to the rule of law. Allowing fair representation and the provision of local democracy is essential to the long-term health of Turkish society and for Turkey's international reputation. As we all know here, a healthy opposition is a sign of a functioning and flourishing democracy. Turkey must respect the views of the opposition and allow its politicians to speak freely and without fear of reprisal. We keenly encourage the government's renewed calls for reform in this area. We also encourage Turkey to ensure that freedom of religion and belief is upheld, as enshrined in Turkey's constitution, and that the rights of minorities such as the Alevi, the Jewish and Christian communities are fully observed. We will continue this conversation about our human rights concerns with Turkey. The Honourable Lady, the member for Enfield North, asked whether I would be raising this issue with counterparts. I hope to visit Turkey soon, travel restrictions permitting, of course, and to raise these issues with my Turkish counterparts. My ministerial colleague, Lord Ahmed, who holds the human rights portfolio in the FCDO, also plans to visit in the coming months. Of course.
Jim Shannon.
If you're visiting Turkey, the Minister's visiting Turkey, could I ask that you would bring up the issue of the 140 Protestant families who have been expelled or pending expulsion from Turkey just primarily because they're Christians and because they're Protestants, and they're taking their houses and their jobs and they're asking to get out? Please.
Minister.
Thank you. I'm grateful to the Honourable Gentleman for his intervention there. Obviously, I will be having a range of discussions with counterparts when I am in Turkey, and I've had discussions previously. I discussed the human rights situation and specifically Osman Kavala's ongoing detention during the virtual visit I made to Ankara in December. The FCDO has discussed not only our concerns, but also the development of the reform proposals with the Turkish Embassy here in London as well. I have some concluding remarks to make, but in the time that I've got, I'm going to see whether I can perhaps cover off a few more of the questions that were raised. 5 minutes, I believe. So I know honourable members raised the issue of LGBTI rights. We support the rights of LGBTI groups in Turkey. We've encouraged Turkey to respect the rights of the LGBTI community and to allow pride marches to go ahead unchallenged and to discourage disparaging public statements targeting the LGBTI plus community. We also support all minority groups in Turkey, including the Alevi community and Christians, in line with provisions in the Turkish constitution that protect the rights of religious minorities. The Honourable Lady for Jarrow raised the issue of trade and human rights, I believe, as well. And just briefly, Madam Chair, the UK has long supported the promotion of our values globally, and we are clear that more trade does not have to come at the expense of human rights. We do not see a choice between securing growth, investment and trade for the UK and supporting human rights. And despite our varying approach to agreements with partners, we will always have open discussions on a range of issues, including human rights. I know honourable members also raised the issue of opposition politicians who have been arrested or detained. And just to reinforce what I said in my remarks, Madam Chair, we remain concerned about the 4-year detention of Selahattin Demirtas, who was a former co-chair of the People's Democratic Party. And with our international partners, we call on Turkey to meet its obligations as a founding member of the Council of Europe and release Demirtas from his extended pre-trial detention. So to conclude, Madam Chair, while we seek to strengthen our positive links with Turkey, we make no secret of our concerns and of our values. We are a critical friend, and I can assure the House that stronger UK-Turkey relations will not be at the expense of standing up for human rights, a principle that this government holds dear. We do share values with Turkey. We're in the family of NATO and at the Council of Europe. And while these issues continue to be a challenge, we talk to Turkey about them as a friend and with encouragement. We will urge our Turkish counterparts to make swift progress, to deliver the reforms they have promised for this year, and to fully enact them through the Human Rights Action Plan. And I just remember the Honourable Member for Brighton Kempton made reference to a report, and I'm sure, Madam Chair, he'll be sending it through to me in due course for me to read. Thank you.
The question is that this House has considered arrest of opposition politicians in Turkey. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order, order. The sitting is suspended until 4:50.
The proceeding is currently suspended.